Ladies and gentlemen, these are the ground rules for Zoom meetings. Number one, find a quiet space to participate in the meeting. Number two, enter the room a few minutes early to resolve any technical issues. Number three, mute your microphone when not talking. Number four, keep your camera on whenever possible. Number five, use the chat box if you have something to say. And number six, be interested so the meeting can be interesting. Thank you.
For welcome dance of Mangrara Banua, traditional dance from Toraja, South Sulawesi, performed by the student of Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar. Give applause, please. Your Excellency, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, in that case represented by Deputy of Tourist Product and Events, Mrs. Insinyur Rizky Handayani Mustafa MBTM, the Honorable Director of Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar, Mr. Dr. Muhammad Arfin MPD, the Honorable all speakers of the international seminar, the Honorable all distinguished guests and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Let me introduce myself. I am Indra Gunawan, the Master of Ceremony today of International Seminar. First of all, let us praise to Almighty God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us good health and good opportunity so we can attend today's international seminar. The theme of the international seminar is Developing Tourism in Collaboration, Looking at Indonesian Perspective, conducted by Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar on September 16, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start today's international seminar, let us pray together according to our belief and our religion. Pray, begin. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, The next of the national anthem of Indonesia. All distinguished guests and participants, please stand up.
Seminar internasional yang saya hormati. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam Indonesia maju, salam sehat untuk kita semua. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asramil anbiya'i wa mursalin. Segala puji bagi Sang Penguasa alam semesta. Semoga selawat serta keselamatan tercurahkan kepada Nabiullah Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam beserta keluarga dan sahabat-sahabatnya, termasuk kita yang hadir pada kesempatan ini. Welcome and thank you the speaker and participant in collaboration towards term tourism seminar, developing tourism and collaboration looking at Indonesia perspective. Ibu Deputi yang saya hormati, sebelum saya melanjutkan, izinkan sebagai insan pariwisata untuk menyampaikan sebuah pantun. Jalan kaki di pantai Losari, menatap indahnya laut berwarna biru. Saya berdiri tempat inti, menyapa hadirin lewat Zoom meeting. Ibu Deputi, hadirin yang saya hormati. Every country has extraordinary tourism which cannot be compared to any other country. Therefore, collaboration in developing tourism is a suitable concept to be raised in this seminar. Tourism development collaboration is one of the development concept very useful and effective tourism. To have international competitive tourism development which collaboration needs to be done starting need from all parties, including research, strengthening community capacity, and networking marketing. From this region, the role of various parties is needed to optimize the development of Indonesian tourism in general and South Sulawesi in particular, and even in the Asia Pacific. They continue development of tourism by collaboration together. This year, the Makassar Tourism Polytechnic Pariwisata held an international seminar with the developing tourism and collaboration looking at Indonesia perspective and collaboration with several universities from Malaysia and Australia. This year, international seminar was held taking into account COVID-19 conditions, so it will be done online. Hope I can collaborate with practitioners, academics, and tourism about this 2021 international seminar. Furthermore, kami meminta kepada Menteri Pariwisata dan Ekonomi Kreatif untuk membuka dan memberikan arahan secara resmi yang diwakili Ibu Insinyur Rizky Handayani Mustafa, MBATM, Deputi Bidang Produk Wisata dan penyelenggara kegiatan untuk memberikan arahan sekaligus membuka kegiatan ini. Hadirin yang kami hormati, sebelum saya menutup laporan ini, izinkan saya menyampaikan, room Zoom meeting sudah diramaikan dengan peserta seminar. Salam untuk undur diri, kita sambut para pembicara. Wise people say, do not do a celebration if you want to be perfect, because perfection only belong to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
That was the welcome address of Director of Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar. Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad Arifin, MPD. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, in that case represented by Deputy of Tourist Product and Events, for a welcome address and opening ceremony international seminar. Your Excellency, Mrs. Insinyur Rizky Handayani Mustafa, MBTM, time is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good
Very
morning.
good.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Jelas,
Halo?
Ibu.
Is the participant? Oke, jelas, baik. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Bu.
First of all, please we praise and gratitude to Almighty God, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, for the blessing that we can gather here to attend the international seminar on tourism in tourism, developing tourism in collaboration, looking at Indonesia perspective, organized by Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar. And I would like to congratulate the Polytechnic Tourism of Makassar, who already working very hard to make this happen. And also I would like to thank to USC Australia and also the Polytechnic University Teknologi of Mara that you used for your support to make these seminars happen. Ladies and gentlemen, para peserta dari Zoom meeting ini, as we know that this is already 1.5 years that we, the tourism industry, strike from the COVID-19. Then we are know that one of the sector that's very get the impact from this pandemic is tourism. However, we know that we need to move forward. We cannot just stay and then what you call it, dan menangis, crying that why this tourism is why this happened. And then I think this why we need to really understand the situations and the issues of what will happen after this pandemic. You know that there is a changing on trend on tourism. There will later on the traveling will be smaller in size and more localized, more customized, as well more personalized. That's why we want to have a new product. We need to think about a new product that what the market needs. And then our minister always always saying that in order to make the program running very well, we need to collaborate. And I'm really happy that today that we already one of the example that we work together. There is always three approach that our minister always mentioned. Is one is adaptation. We need to adapt with this situation, the situation with COVID. Now the government of Indonesia is implemented the Peduli Lindungi. I know that maybe in Makassar you already applying the Peduli Lindungi platform that will tracking and tracing wherever you go to the public area. I think this is very important that for us in order to make the COVID, the pandemic is stopped. And then the second, and also we still working for the implementation of the cleanliness, health, safety, and environmental sustainability health protocol. since we are now still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we must ensure that our schools, our public area, our tourist attractions implemented this protocol. And then the second is innovations. We know that the innovation, what we do now is a part of our innovation, that we are now have a meeting with a Zoom meeting with more than 300. I saw the 313 participants attended this seminar. I think maybe for Makassar, this is one of the biggest participants maybe that maybe to attend this kind of seminar. And then these innovations with the technology will also change how the way people traveling and the way people searching for the information. Therefore, I really suggest the Polytechnic Tourism of Makassar should innovate on your curriculum in order to face this the changings of the technology. And then the third is our minister always mentioned about the collaboration, but the collaboration is not only the slogan, but collab actions. So we need the action that we can do together between the government, between the business, academic, media, as well as financial institution. Maybe we really need to find the financial source to help to support our industry. And then this is very important because with the limited of the resources in the government, as well as with the collaboration, we can share the information, we can join forces together to make the pandemic is to make the tourism is running again after the pandemic. Finally, I would like to invite the National Tourism Organization, the university, travel industry, practitioners, lecturers, and all the students from around the world, as well as from especially for Makassar, to join the seminar and to share, as well as to listen to the expert that come from Malaysia and Australia in order to broaden our perspective in how we can collaborate in the future. With the Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I open the international international seminar on developing tourism in collaboration, looking at Indonesia perspective. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
That was the welcome address and opening international seminar 2021 of the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, in the case represented by Deputy of Tourism Product and Events. Thank you very much, Mrs. Insinyur Rizky Handayani Mustafa, MBTM. Ladies and gentlemen, the first session of the International Seminar 2021 will be moderated by Mr. Muhammad Arfin Muhammad Salim, the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Arfin Muhammad Salim. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning, everybody. Maybe some countries are in the afternoon, so and very good afternoon. Well, this session, we will start for 3 speakers from Australia and from Malaysia. But beforehand, I'd like to introduce myself to you all. My name is Muhammad Arfin Muhammad Salim. I am a lecturer of Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar. Another job is the Deputy Directors of Academic Affairs. Then these sessions, we will talk about 3 topics. The first topic is about sustainable tourism by Professor Noel Scott from USC, Australia. And the second is about tourism in crisis or impact on tourism business by Professor Muhammad Puad from Malaysia. Then the third speaker will be Professor Bill Carter from USC, Australia, and we'll talk about rural tourism and heritage, cultural heritage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 3 speakers for today, because the time for speaking or talk for each speaker will take about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after the 3 speakers, we will have Q&A. So will be 3 questions. And the rule for the questions, so you can address your questions through chat on Zoom. Well, but beforehand, before I invite the speakers, I'd like to say to you that this seminar attended by 15 countries around the world. Yeah, from Indonesia to Timor-Leste, Malaysia, India, Philippines, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Japan, and also another country. Sorry, I cannot say one by one. So 15 countries attended that seminar. Well, for this session, we will start from sustainable tourism by professional. So I like to invite to welcome professional. Time is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Pak?
Yes.
Okay,
Clear.
well, it's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you for this wonderful invitation. Before I start, I'd like to thank Ibu Rizky Mustafa, representative of the Minister of Tourism and Creative Industries, the director of the Tourism Polytechnic Makassar, yourself, I'll call you Pak Arfin because we're good friends, and the other speakers. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk, and especially to engage in collaboration, which is the theme of this seminar. Collaboration, of course, is the key issue with tourism. It is businesses do compete with each other, but they also must cooperate in some way. And that's the idea of co-opetition, cooperation and competition. So I've got a little slide. May I ask someone to share the my slides on the screen, please?
Share the slide, operator.
As we're getting those up, I'll just start talking because I can talk underwater and I don't want to take too much of the time. So I want to talk a little bit. Thank you. That's the first slide. So we can go to the second slide now, please. I want to talk a little bit about sustainable tourism and the idea of sustainable tourism really started, well, it's been, is said to have started around about 1987 with a report called the Brundtland Report. 1987. It's not so long ago that we started talking about sustainable development and the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations. So, but that idea that that's only about 30, 35 years old is surprising. It's an indication of how much things have changed, that idea, which was at one time quite controversial, is now pretty much accepted. And certainly it's also involved in sustainable tourism. So this is the same idea, but within the tourism sector. So it's about tourism development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
So thank you. So there are sort of a number of different areas. You know, sustainable tourism is a very broad concept. And I think in order to make progress on it, it's useful to narrow down into key areas. And those key areas, you can group them into environmental areas, social, cultural authenticity, or the local community and their cultural heritage and traditions, and then economic operations, not just making money, but making money and thinking about where the money goes and is distributed, to try and ensure that tourism is, the benefits of tourism are spread throughout a region rather than focused in particular areas. And that involves, again, including host communities and especially people who might be less wealthy into tourism. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so what I tried to do is to think a little bit about some of the key issues of sustainable tourism for Makassar. So sustainable tourism, as I said, is a big issue. And I just tried to put down some of the key things that you might want to pay attention to. And luckily, I think I've covered some of the things that that Ibu Mustafa has spoken about. Firstly, of course, and this is the issue, the main idea at the moment is recovery from COVID. And that will have benefits for the social benefits as well as economic benefits. But that's an immediate focus. When you're talking about sustainable tourism, you're thinking longer term. So you need to deal with the issues of today, but also think about where you're going to be in 10 years. Perhaps 10 years it might be a sort of a middle term time frame to think about. So you have to think about the things such as finding customers, and certainly at the moment that might be in the domestic market. So with international travel less possible at the moment, perhaps you need to focus on the domestic market and develop products and services specifically for that group. One of the things that I understand from talking to the dedicated and intelligent researchers in Tourism Makassar Polytechnic is that Makassar has the possibility of developing its stopover market. So it's a transportation hub, and there's a lot of product development and even marketing that could be done to develop that market, getting people to stay longer as they move through Makassar, perhaps from eastern Indonesia to west and so on. The minister's representative also talked about product development, and some of the work I've been involved in, luckily, with the Maros Pankip Geopark and other universities in the area has highlighted that as having great potential for product development. Whenever I look at new products and services, I'm always thinking, well, how attractive is this? How unusual is it? And in the Maros Pankip Geopark, you've got some archaeological resources which are world unique. So lots of potential. Bugis culture is another, I think, underdeveloped area. We saw some beautiful dancing in the opening ceremony. There's a lot, that idea of the people who were sailors sailed down to Australia is a wonderful area for development. Another thing you need to do is think about where you want to be in 10 years' time. Where does South Sulawesi, where does Makassar see itself in 10 years' time in terms of economic development as well as environmental and social development? And you'll see the responsibilities for these things are not just with government and industry, but it's about including other groups, such as the local community. Of course, from an environmental perspective, these are the green lines. Plastic rubbish is a key issue for sustainable tourism in Makassar, and raising the awareness of getting towards zero waste and waste management is important. I put down another one which might be useful to think about: buses or public transportation, as cars are a major form of pollution. So think about that. But then, of course, we need to work on targets which are going to generate local jobs and inclusive employment, which might be training and will certainly involve the community as well as government and perhaps industry. So these are just some ideas for you to think about for the future. Next slide, please. Next slide. Just really quickly, this is the idea of a destination vision. So it's about getting the community to think about where they want to be in 10 years in terms of being a tourism destination. And it's a aspirational statement that provides you with long-term goals. Thank you. Next slide, please. And then I thought, well, do you have this? So I spoke about a number of different initiatives or issues that need to be addressed. And most of those are being addressed, but you need to think about those in terms of your vision and try, when you're developing, to minimize problems, economic problems such as seasonality in tourism, revenue leakage, the impact of crises. And interestingly, I think developing the domestic market is one way to try and even out seasonality caused by international travelers. And also displacement of traditional sectors. So when you're developing these issues, try and think about them in terms of minimizing some problems and achieving your long-term vision for 2031, which is not so long away, really. Okay, next slide, please. There's a number of tools you can use to do this. So one way to think about the tourism industry is as a value chain from booking, arrival, accommodation, transportation, activities, and so on, departure. And in each one of those sections, there's a whole heap of companies, businesses, involvement, which you can work in. For example, you might be thinking about boat rentals to get to the islands off the coast. There are many areas, and so it's a very tricky thing to do to plan for tourism. You need to have information about all these areas. Next slide, please. And then you need to integrate it with social issues. The work you're going to do in this social area. So again, this social area requires training in cleanliness and COVID and stuff. We have, I and Bill and others from the Makassar Polytechnic have been involved in some community training in the Maris Pankip Geopark, but there's other things to do. So what are the projects you're going to introduce to develop inclusive employment, maybe further protect, but also develop the Bugis culture, develop plastic waste. So there's a whole series of positive and negative things that tourism can do. This is in the top right-hand corner, which you need to plan for and include in your planning. Could we now move to the, next slide, please. Next slide.
Next slide. Next slide.
Thank you. And one way to do that is to, again, collect data and map how the society is organized in terms of perhaps accommodation, food, tours, handicrafts, and then target particular initiatives where you think it might improve the women in the community or ethnic minorities or so on. So think about targeting initiatives which can improve inclusion in the tourism sector. Thank you. Next one. Next slide. Finally, well, not finally, but importantly, we get to environmental issues. Again, we need a program of projects which will address environmental issues in Makassar. As part of the Maris Pankip Geopark development, you certainly need training and for the communities in dealing with environmental issues, perhaps transportation planning, plastic waste education. But again, all of these things need to be programmed. Thank you. Next, please.
1 more minute.
Yeah, so I'll try and finish. So some of the key issues that you might support that are land use planning. So developing a plan for the geopark or for other areas. Next, please. Developing destination management to develop that collaboration between different areas. I won't dwell on that. Next one, please.
Next.
And finally, measurement. So there are many, many, many indicators of sustainability. And what do they say? Nothing, if it's not measured, it's not done. So you need to be thinking about developing indicators to track over time how you're going in terms of the complex area of tourism sustainability. So next, please.
Next.
Okay, so thank you. I just wanted to emphasize that you need to be looking 10 years ahead. You can't be thinking about there are some immediate problems now about COVID and recovery, but looking forward, what do you want the destination? You need to have some way to think about the environment and to plan for it. So I'll leave it there, but thank you very much for the opportunity, and very happy to answer any questions when I can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. The questions will be addressed after the deliver the talk. So I think just wait for the question. Sustainable research in U.S.E. University of Sunshine Coast, Melbourne, Australia. And then he has a lot of publications about sustainable tourism. Yeah, I think that's all. And for the next speaker, we would like to invite Professor Ahmad Puad Matsom. He's a professor in tourism, University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Malaysia. His interest in tourism planning and development studies, community-based tourism, crisis management, and Muslim-friendly tourism. He is a professional membership or Asia Pacific Association, APTA, and president of Malaysia's chapter International Institute for Peace through Tourism, and also professional member Asia Pacific Institute of Event Management. So he has more than 80 publication international. Well, I think we like to invite Professor Ahmad Puad Matsom to deliver the speak. The topic for is about a crisis management in tourism. It is the impact of the COVID-19 or many issues about this, and then he will deliver about the lesson learned from crisis management and the impact impacted to business of tourism. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so we welcome Professor Puad. Time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Arfin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and salam sejahtera. This morning, I will be presenting about how crisis of different typology impact tourism industry, in particular in Southeast Asia, Malaysia and Indonesia. As we are still grappling with this COVID-19, it's important that we see how we have been impacted by crisis of different types. So do I share my slide, Pak Arfin?
Hello, operator. Share the slide for.
Do you see my slide?
Okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Tourism is very vulnerable to different crises, and history has documented hundreds of crises which have had devastating impacts upon the tourism industry. I cannot move my slide, Pak Arfin.
Okay, next. Next slide.
My slide is not moving on my side. Can I let the host share the slides, please?
Yes. Wait. It's a problem. Can you share the slide, please, operator? Okay, go next slide.
Okay, next slide, please.
Yep. Next. Yes. You see, Prof? Can you see?
Okay. In the past, we have seen crises of different types that actually resulted in a very huge fatalities, but not in the modern time. Next slide, please. And only in 2004 that we have seen a tsunami that impacted tourism in different parts of the region, especially in Indonesia, because it originated from Aceh. And from the academic literature, it was found that crises, they have different typologies. Some argued that they are either natural disasters and either human and induced crises. Next, please.
Next slide. Can you see, Prof? This is the third
Okay,
slide.
yeah. And different academic and scholars argue that crisis can fall into a different typology, such as political crisis, economic crisis, health crisis, and environmental crisis. As mentioned by Prof. Noel, Bali, for example, recently has experienced a lot of environmental degradation, for example, garbage and so on. And in the academic literature, it was also debated that crisis can fall either as cobra type of crisis or python type of crisis. Cobra type means the impact can be very sudden, unexpected, as opposed to python type, where the crisis is very much long enduring. Okay, in general, crises have significantly lowered the number of tourist arrival, and most crises, typically man-made and natural, are often localized and restricted to certain geographical region. For example, crisis that happen in Indonesia does not affect much tourism in Malaysia, for example, and the recovery period from crisis is relatively short. But however, this COVID-19 pandemic is exceptionally rare health and economic calamity, whereby we notice that in the world that no country has been spared from this COVID-19. And there have been a lot of crises that affected Malaysia's tourism. Crises that happened in Indonesia. I give you some example, like Bali bombing, the tsunami and etc. In Southeast Asia, Indonesia is the one that has been badly affected by crisis. But however, although Malaysia is relatively perceived as a very safe destination, there have been a lot of crises that happened in Malaysia that affected tourism. For example, the earthquake in Sabah, Sulu invasion, the prolonged dry season, the MH370 and MH17, and the political crisis. I'm sorry for the technical glitch.
Okay, let's share the next slide.
So that's why COVID-19 is both health and economic crisis, and the impact vary in terms of geographical area, population size, and economy. And the magnitude and scope of impact depends on how they responded, severity of the case, and also the duration of the lockdown. So it's important for tourism firm to mitigate the crisis. So in the literature, it is mentioned that it's important to apply double loop as opposed to single loop. What double loop is about, that they have to take proactive action as opposed to very reactive. And the future of tourism, we notice that post-COVID that we have to travel with SOPs, with the new norms. And as mentioned by the Ibu Rizky, there have been a shift from mass tourism to alternative and special interest tourism. and high reliance on IT and digital technology, but it will not replace conventional tourism. So for tourism businesses, they have to establish cost-effective measures, they have to diversify business, and for a start, they have to focus on domestic tourism.
Next slide.
So I would like to conclude by saying that crisis can occur anytime. It's very important that we engage double loop learning, and we have to prepare for the next one. And it's important that we have to involve all tourism stakeholders.
Okay, next.
Thank you very much, Pak Arfin.
Okay, Prof, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Prof. Give applause to Prof. Puad for his presentations for today about the crisis. I think the crisis is back to the very much to tourism, particularly for business tourism. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, so we come to the third speaker. This is about rural tourism and cultural heritage. Will be delivered by Professor Bill Charter. He is expert in heritage resource management. This area is ecotourism, culture change, and tourism. And he is also lectures at a professor in USC, Australia, the same as Professor Noel. He has more than 100 publications in terms of tourism in international journals. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor Bill Charter. Time is yours. Slide, Prof. Bill. Still mute. Mute. Hello, operator, termute, Prof. We can hear you, Prof.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So what I'm going to talk about in the short time is try to put rural tourism in context of cultural heritage. And then if we have enough time, just talk about some key questions I think that need to be asked when we're talking about developing rural tourism products. So next slide, please. So I'm looking at this from my phone, so it's looking very small. If we think about starting from the natural heritage perspective, then we've got nature-based tourism, and that's anything that basically happens in natural settings. But then there's a special part of that, which is ecotourism, where we expect people to appreciate nature, to interpret nature, and then, of course, contribute to its protection. So that's a special type of tourism that is nature-based. Next slide, please. So if we then look at agriculture or rural lands, which nature-based tourism does occur in, we just add the production side of things to the dimension. And within that rural tourism, there's, of course, village tourism. And in this case, the focus is more on the setting, the rural area that tourists might appreciate. But when we talk to village tourism, we're talking about livelihoods. We're talking about what people do within a rural setting. And that can be a tourism product, of course. Next slide, please. So then if we add cultural tourism to the whole, oh, I'm getting feedback. We add another dimension, and the nature-based tourism and rural tourism can be all part of cultural tourism. Rural tourism can be all part of. Okay, can you hear me? I'm getting a lot of echo, that's all. And in this case, if it's cultural tourism, the focus is definitely on people, and requires a community to be involved rather than just the setting, just the natural environment or the rural environment. Culture is who we are and what we do, and I mean we as a collective humanity. What we're looking there for tourism there is for people to appreciate our culture and understand it and therefore protect it. Next slide, please. Now, packaging all that together, I would consider those things by themselves or together is heritage tourism. But in this case, we're talking about what we've inherited from the past and what we're going to leave as a legacy for the future. Hence the link to sustainable tourism. It's leaving our culture, our environment, our rural lands in a better condition than, well, at least as good a condition as as what they were like when we received them. In terms of heritage tourism, we need communities to appreciate them. It won't be heritage if local communities don't appreciate their own heritage. And unfortunately, that is often the case in many parts of the world. We take our culture and our heritage items for granted, and they lose their value, they lose their significance. In this case, though, for tourists, we want them to appreciate the heritage and therefore hopefully contribute to its protection. Next slide, please. But we need to think a little bit about culture, and don't get tied up with the big definition I've put there. Just have a look at what's considered to be part of culture within that flower in the bottom right-hand corner. Poke the button again so we get the next lot of words, please. The change. Change the slide, please. Thank you. Hold there now. Culture is made up of all those things, but what's important is what we see when we talk about culture, particularly from a tourism perspective, is how the culture is expressed. And if you look at that flower, it can be expressed as dance, it can be expressed as cuisine, it can be expressed as little offerings, can be expressed as religious ceremonies, song, music, all of those things. And that's what tourism trades in. That's what we can sell. That's what we can make products out of and make commercial. The problem is that when we do that, many of the cultural expressions lose meaning and tend to be lost. So if we're planning for cultural tourism, if we're planning for heritage tourism, we need to be careful that in making products of culture, that we don't lose what we want to keep. Next slide, please. The point I'm making here is pulling it together. Rural tourism is linked to rural landscapes, it's linked to rural livelihoods, rural traditions, livelihood expressions, cultural traditions, and cultural heritage. They're all linked. They're all part of the one thing. So when we're talking about rural tourism, to me, we're talking about cultural heritage. Poke the button again so we get the next lot of words. Change. So key questions, I think, are these. If we're going to get involved in rural tourism and cultural heritage, what might we gain out of tourism there and what might be lost? Poke again so we get the next lot of words. How can we maximise the gains and minimise losses? A key part of tourism when we're dealing in natural environments and in cultural environments. Again, next lot of words, please. And we need to be defined before we start what's going to be accepted in terms of losses. We know what we'd like in gains. We'd like lots of income, lots of job employment, but what are we prepared to lose and what's acceptable and what's not? Next slide, please. Now, time's probably, that's right. Now, I won't go through all of these, and people can get this when the organisers hand out the slides, because I'm mindful of the time. So I'll go straight to the final slide, please. Change. Next slide, please. And to me, this is the important thing. That when we're talking about rural tourism and cultural heritage, it really means making heritage, making our culture the product for tourism. And there's the danger of losing our culture when we do this. And I ask people, whenever they're thinking about rural tourism, cultural tourism, to really think up front, what are you prepared to trade? What are you prepared to give up? What are you prepared to lose? Because unless that's clearly understood, there is a danger that things will be lost that you would prefer not to lose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Give applause to Prof. Bill Charter. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so before Q&A, I would like to get the point for the three presenters, for three speakers. For this one about sustainable tourism. So when we talk about sustainable tourism, it is about commodifications of a culture, respect to the social culture, and also long-term economic operation. And also sustainable tourism issues that will be economic issues, social issues, and also environmental issues. And the next about the crisis, I think Professor Puad had talked about vulnerable tourism. Tourism is a vulnerable industry that find a crisis, any kinds of a crisis like natural crisis, mostly man-made crisis, but it's man-made crisis, and also COVID-19 now it's happened. And the last one, a speaker from Professor Bill about rural tourism. When we talk about rural tourism, is about talking about rural landscape, livelihood, rural tradition, lively expressions, and also culture, tradition, and cultural heritage. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, so we are coming to the questions and answers. So I think there is a questions. What is all this, the speakers? So the questions is from Cici from University Udayana. She would like to ask a question to Professor Noel about how do we predict tourism in the next 10 years and what indicators are the benchmarks? So can you, Professor Noel, can you give what is an explanations or answer these questions? Prof. Noel, are you still monitor? The question is about, I repeat again, Prof. Noel, how do we predict tourism in the next 10 years and what indicators are benchmark? Okay, time's yours.
Can you hear me? Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry. Good. Well, thank you. Good question. May I suggest, bottom line is we can't predict the future. Anyone who tells you they can predict the future is wrong. But, or let's say predict the future absolutely, but there are certain trends that are more or less going to happen. For example, population growth is certainly something which you can predict with fairly good accuracy, reliability. Environmental issues, I think there's enough evidence now to suggest that there will be problems with warming of the environment in the future. Economic growth in general can be projected based on population growth and some other factors. So you can never be 100% sure, but in terms of the big things, there's a number of good estimates you can make. What you do then is you might suggest or look at what effect you can do to change them. Some trends you have to live with. Other trends you can actually take some intervention to change them. And of course, the further you go into the future, the more likely you are to be able to make some difference. So, so you can predict some things. You probably can't predict who's going to win the Eurovision contest next year or win a particular horse race, but you might be able to predict macro trends or at least think about macro trends. So then you try and address those, you put them into a plan and develop some scenarios perhaps. So there's lots of techniques you can do to try and address these issues. You can never be certain. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Well, any other questions? I think I'd like to ask from the offline participant who has any questions, maybe. Okay, Prof, I think there is no more questions. So if no more questions, we are going to shift to the next sessions. Thank you very much, Professor Noel, Professor Puad, and Professor Bill Tartar. And see you again for another sessions of seminar. And also, we are going to shift to the next session. So that will be two speakers. One is Professor Indroyono Soesilo, and also from Indonesia, and the other one is from Malaysia, Azwin Aksan. So I think that's all for this session. I close. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I send back to the MC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad Arfin Muhammad Salim. Give applause. And the second session of the International Seminar 2021 will be moderated by Mrs. Margaretha Wadid Rante, the Honorable Mrs. Margaretha Wadid Rante. Time is yours.
Well, thank you, Master Ceremony, for giving us this opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom and Om Swastiastu. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear my voice clearly? I do hope. The Honorable Professor Dr. Dwisuryo Indroyono Soesilo M.Sc., the Honorable Ms. Azwin Aksan, and respectable all the participants of this international seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Margaretha Wadid Rante. I am from Polytechnic, Makassar, as a lecturer of Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar, as the second moderator. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you. In this session, we have two keynote speakers. The first one is about gastronomic tourism, will be delivered by Ms. Azwin Aksan. Welcome, Ms. Azwin Aksan. And the second one is about marine tourism, delivered by Professor Dr. Dwisuryo Indroyono Soesilo, M.Sc. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce both our speakers today. The first speaker is Ms. Azwin Aksan. She is a senior lecturer of Tourism Department, Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, Mara University of Teknologi, Malaysia. She was a member of Tourism Working Group, which was Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand in 2005 till 2018. And the second speaker is Professor Dr. Dwisuryo Indroyono Soesilo, M.Sc. He was a former Minister Coordinator of Fields of Violence in 2015 to 2015. His educational background, he is graduated from Bandung Institute of Technology in Major Technique of Geological, and the master degree, he's graduated from Michigan University, and his doctoral concern on geological remote sensing of university. Ladies and gentlemen, before the presentation begins, let me inform how the presentation will be going on. The speaker will be invited to present the material, and I will give the time for each presenter 10 to 15 minutes, and after that will be a question and answer. So if you have any question, please write on the chat box. Now, please welcome to the first speaker, Ms. Azwin Aksan, to deliver her presentation. Ms. Azwin Aksan, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you. Very clear.
Hello. Salam persona Indonesia. Salam persona Indonesia. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for having me in this session. It is Hari Malaysia today. It's a special day. Malaysia is on public holiday, and it is Malaysia Day today after our Independence Day last year. Today is the Formation Day of Malaysia, 16 September. So Salam Hari Malaysia and Salam Persona Indonesia. Interestingly, I was given this topic on gastronomic tourism. And of course, all of us can relate to food, to culinary, to eating, because we never miss, we never skip eating. And also I have several experience I would like to also share during this session on my experience with the Indonesian culinary. So basically, before I begin, I would like to, of course, give a basic understanding what gastronomic tourism is about. I think most of us understand gastronomy from the point of view that it is, the things that we eat, but actually gastronomy is beyond that. Gastronomy is linked with the whole experience with eating, from the thing that we put in our mouth and where we actually have it, and of course what we have it and with whom we actually experience this. And gastronomy over the years has become a very significant tools for tourism in promoting or in distinguishing destination identity. So many destinations around the world are now using gastronomy to distinguish themselves from a different destination. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Next slide, please.
Next, this is from the Greek word. It's just the basic understanding what gastro is. Of course, gastros means stomach, and then nomos mean knowledge. So it's basically food knowledge that we learn when we travel for food. This is not merely fulfilling hunger, okay? That is something else we do every day. But when we talk about gastronomic tourism, it's the unique experience that we gain from visiting a place and experiencing that gastronomy itself. Of course, the biggest challenge now is the pandemic. Okay, so with the pandemic, we introduced many alternatives to tourism, for example. And one of it is, of course, we introduced virtual tours, right? And it seems a bit impossible to actually realize the idea of gastronomy via online. Of course, now we see many people around the world are promoting videos, online, showing, demonstrating how certain food is being prepared. But the whole idea of gastronomic travel is that we visit the place, we understand the culture, we get involved in the farming activities, we go to rice fields, we see wineries, we taste things at the wineries and stuff like that. So it is really the whole idea about education, educating oneself is food knowledge. Next. So ideally, basically, gastronomy refers back to the whole art of living. So of course, I could relate with even the previous speakers when we talk about rural tourism, culture, heritage. So gastronomy is all of that, So in presenting the whole gastronomic experience, one needs skills, and I think gastronomy has given a lot of opportunities to the local people, especially, particularly in economic job opportunities, and of course, preparation of food. So how, where, when, and why we consume them. So it goes back to the basic of the food itself. Where do how do we grow it? What do we grow in our land, for example? Next. Next slide, please. Thank you. So basically, we can ask ourselves these questions. What kind of food do we eat, and how do we prepare them, and how do we eat them? So for example, in, of course, the Nusantara, between Malaysia and Indonesia. Of course, we are we're known for eating with hands, right? So there are countries in the upper north, they use chopsticks, and of course, fork and spoon more on the west. So these are experience. These are experience that people gain from engaging themselves in gastronomic tourism. So where do we eat them? Some people, we eat it outdoor, some use the table, some on the floor and stuff like that. And of course, there are season that comes with it. So we have to consider seasonal, for example, in Australia, they have the wines, especially in Adelaide. I think they have the wine festival in June or in July, sometime during the summer time. And sorry, not the summer. During from the winter to the fall, I think. And then, of course, why do we eat that? Motives why. So the things that we grow is the things that we actually convenient to us to prepare. So that's the reason why. And of course, there are things like migration. So in the past, people have migrated from one region to another, one territory to another, and they have influenced the way gastronomy takes place of a particular destination. And of course, who do we eat them with? Who do we socialize? So prior to this talk today, in fact, I managed to watch Eat, Pray, Love, and they actually featured Italy in terms of gastronomic experience, where they promote pizza, bologna, and stuff like that. So I think it is a very unique way to connect food to a particular destination. So when we talk about, of course, I'm going to get there later on Indonesia. The whole culture of gastronomic in Indonesia and Malaysia is quite similar, although there are a lot of significant differences in terms of what is being grown in Indonesia, for example. Indonesia is also very well known for coffee and avocado, which is my favorite drink. And we don't really grow those in Malaysia, although we actually share similar climates. So when we talk about gastronomy, it is very much related to the climate that we live in, the environment, the ambience that we live in, which actually produce a certain kind of raw materials that we eat every day. Next. So in general, when we talk about gastronomic tourism, of course, it is also known as culinary food and all that. It is really about enjoying local cuisine and local food through its food preparation. So because gastronomic tourism is beyond just eating itself, gastronomic destinations should, in fact, focus on the whole idea on how a particular food is being prepared and educating the tourists on the raw materials that's being used in the preparations of food. Next. Okay, so this is basically our looking back at some of the experience I had with culinary experience in Indonesia, especially in Toba, is of course they included some cooking classes and going to the market. So the first thing when we landed in Silangit Airport was to take the whole group to Balige market to actually shop for local ingredients, which were very alien to us. But I think it has really brought us into the real experience of the food that we actually tasted. And it seems like the whole ambience of preparing the food gave us a very unique experience when it comes to gastronomic tourism. Okay, next. So of course, now when we talk about gastronomic tourism, many destinations around the world are fighting to actually introduce their own identity in terms of food. And I think Peru has gained international awareness on its cuisine over the last few years, in fact. And if you talk about Asia, I think it's been a long history in terms of our gastronomic tourism that we offer to the world. And Thai, for example, Vietnam, for example, these are some of the top destinations that actually are very strong in terms of their gastronomic experience in tourism. Okay, next. And these are, of course, some of the identity with destinations that you can relate. So when we mention a certain type of food, we could actually relate. So speaking about these, I would also like to highlight some of the things that in Malaysia we name our food. In fact, which is quite funny. We have this dish we call mi bandung, but it doesn't exist in Indonesia. But we use Bandung name, and then we have mi Jawa. So we tend to use Indonesian name in it because of the migrations of the people coming to Malaysia and how it has affected our gastronomy over here in Malaysia as well as vice versa. And I think in Indonesia as well. I have experienced several gastronomic unique culture in Indonesia. However, I have not had the opportunity to experience Sulawesi or Makassar, but I have experienced Sumatra and Jawa and Riau, of course. So let's take a look at the next slide. Okay, we move to the next one. Thank you. Okay, so this is basically our experience in Toba. This was right before the pandemic, right before the pandemic. It was in August 2019. And there was a planning at that time. We wanted to explore further Indonesia gastronomic or culinary experience. However, with the pandemic arriving at that time, the whole plan had to be put on pause. But we had a great time experiencing the gastronomic experience in Toba, because we were introduced to a particular bumbu called andaliman. So we use that for nasi goreng, and I'm sure Indonesia is very much aware worldwide. I think we are quite known for our delicacies, nasi goreng, and we prepared nasi goreng andaliman, and we also had pizza andaliman over there. And then we were brought to the pineapple farm, where we experienced eating pineapple on the farm itself, which I think was amazing, because it never crossed our mind that we could actually look at pineapple from that perspective. Yeah. Okay. Next. And then I've also experienced in Riau, kopi sekana, and of course seafood experience in Gonggong, where we tried different shell stuff. And nasi padang is of course one of the very famous cuisine in Malaysia as well, and it's well promoted here, and it is not cheap as well. It is actually kind of a high-end food over here, because it's a specialty. And if can you move to the next slide, please? I think oh yeah, okay, this one. Oh no, sorry, the other one, sorry. Before that, thank you. Okay, so if you want to look at the future collaborative ideas, I have actually put together 4, which I think I'm missing one of it here. The number one, of course, is I think there's a big potential or opportunities in the halal market when we talk about gastronomic tourism. I think, in fact, Australia is also focusing on halal meat, yeah, and lamb. So promoting halal tourism is for the gastronomic experience is actually one big opportunity or potential that we Indonesia should really focus on. I think one of I wouldn't say issue, but one of the major concern that we had when we visit Toba in 2019 was the availability of halal tourism. Of course, for Malaysia, it seems like a very important market. And of course, for many other countries as well, if you're targeting Middle East. And then we look back to basic. Because of the pandemic, I think it is important that if we want to restart gastronomic tourism, we look back into the basics. We look into the sustainable development goals, for example, sustainable gastronomy, where we go back to the basic, how the food is prepared, how it is grown. I think this is the best opportunity to actually explore or dig into the real potential of gastronomic tourism. And of course, because gastronomy is very much related to education, I think youth market is something that the Indonesia and any destination should actually focus on in trying to bring the youth the experience or the unique idea of what gastronomic experience is all about. I think food or eating local food, it helps with our well-being as well and our livelihoods. And I think getting the youth market involved is very much and a potential to better our economy, in fact. And finally, food for well-being. I think since the pandemic, we have noticed many people have become more health conscious, and people look into hygiene. We have become very particular in terms of what we actually put in our mouth. So I think promoting and understanding with different cultures, and understanding wellness and the well-being of people is one of the potential areas of concern for gastronomic tourism development. I think that is all I have for today's presentation. Thank you very much. And I look forward to the question. Thank you. Salam Persona Indonesia.
Salam wonderful Indonesia. Thank you, Ms. Azwin Aksan, for your interesting presentation. Talk about the gastronomic of tourism, and we talk about what will we eat and what from. So I'd like to inform you that in South Sulawesi, especially in Makassar, the traditional food is the name Coto Makassar.
Yes.
Sop kondro. Yes.
Yes.
So we wait you in Makassar. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed that. Looking forward to experience that.
Thank you, Ms. Azwin, for the interesting presentation. Please give applause for Ms. Azwin Aksan. Yes. Before we come to the next session for a question and answer, I give the time for the second presenter. Please welcome Mr. Dwisuryo Indroyono Soesilo, M.Si. Time is yours. Selamat siang, selamat pagi, Bapak.
Thank you, Madam Moderators. Allow me to share my presentation from myself. Let me check.
It's okay. Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. good afternoon, and maybe still good morning in Makassar. All my friends, the seminar participants, is an honor for me to be able to share with you some of our experience on marine tourism in Indonesia and beyond. I used to be the honorary advisor of the Minister of Tourism from 2015 to 2019, dedicated to work on marine tourism. So allow me to share with you what is our experience and what are we going to see in the near future. So first of all, I know that we are moving toward the post-COVID era. How's the tourism on post-COVID era? Number one, we realized that the COVID-19 pandemic is declining. Very happy to learn that Indonesia is now under 3,000 active COVID patients a day. So it's declining compared to the last 2 months ago, up to almost 20,000. Now it's under 3,000. Number two, so for this issue, so a high time for tourism industries to rebound. And now people start traveling again with a health protocol, of course. And outdoor tourism, I think, is the priority. Because doing outdoor tourism, I think we should be able to eliminate, the virus as many as possible. So if you talk about outdoor tourism, a lot of selections on that. And I think marine tourism should be the first choice. So I think in Indonesia, the country with this so much diversity, archipelagic country with more than 17,000 islands, I think we have to, we may choose marine tourism as the most prioritized activities in the post-COVID era. Just to recap, I like to share the data until 2019, because since March 2020 until today, Indonesia still has to have a challenge, to overcome the COVID pandemic. But until 2019, there are 5 major tourist arrivals coming from Singapore, number 1, number 2 from Malaysia, number 3 from China, number 4 from Australia, number 5 from Japan. So I think the first 5, and so that's why my presentation mentioned in Indonesia and beyond, because I know that most of these tourists coming to Indonesia will like to experience the natural beauty of Indonesia, particularly also our marine destination, our beach, our coast, and so on. Let me begin with how do we proceed to develop the marine tourism in Indonesia and beyond. Okay, I'll still like to use these 3 A's that I think is quite easy to be digested. Okay, number 1 is in marine tourism we have to have at least easy accessibilities, airport, ports, marinas for yacht, cruise ships, yacht. Why I mention port, marinas, cruise ship, and yacht? In these issues, marina, cruise ship, yacht, those are the means to travel for this, among others, for this doing the marine tourists. Because beside airplanes and ships, you can use yacht and also you can use cruise ships. And number 2 is the amenity. You need resort. You need hotels. However, we can use yacht as our place to stay. We can use ships as also, and cruise ships are our place to stay. So amenity also is much easier. Having this easy accessibility and easy amenity, actually we can travel all over Indonesia, all over the archipelago in a much easy way. You don't need to wait for the establishment of the construction of hotel or resort, for example. So issue number 1, number 3 is very important, attractions. We want to go into Indonesian archipelago because of the destination, because of the beauty of the attraction of our marine tourist destination. The beach, we can do swimming, diving, snorkeling, yachting, cruising, surfing, game fishing. So all are available. And now these all with 3 A's, we should be able to start, to jumpstart the marine tourism activities post COVID era in Indonesia and in the region. Why? just to remind everyone that our total sea area is 5.8 million square kilometers, which is territorial sea is 3.1 million square kilometer, and EEZ, or exclusive economic zone, 2.7 million square kilometers, more than 17,400 islands, and 81,000 kilometer long coastline, and it is the world's largest marine mega biodiversity. If you talk about mega biodiversity on land, I think Indonesia should be number 2 after the Amazon. And we talk about marine mega biodiversity, Indonesia is number 1 in the world. Just to make some comparison, our marine biodiversity is 5 times of the Caribbean and 25 times of the Mediterranean. Having said that, you see why the question, why the tourists going into the Caribbean seas and islands are much more as compared to Indonesia, most of them coming from the US, for example. Why many of the yachts all over the world are stationed in Mediterranean? Why not in this area? So this is the trigger for us to improve our program in this area, because yes, in terms of marine biodiversity, Indonesia is the largest in the world. Some example I like to share with you. Maybe it's not our. Sometimes we don't know that this is something that interests many of the foreign tourists. If you want to see seahorses, but the world's smallest seahorse is only 1.4 centimeters. It's found in North Timor Island in Indonesian waters. So the divers usually like to see this kind of small seahorse living in our Timor Islands, north of the islands. Everybody want to see selacan. You don't realize selacan actually is a living fossil, 400 million years in evolution. In Africa, in East Africa, you will find these fossils in a stone, in rocks. But in Indonesia, you found this living in North Sulawesi Sea. It's found in 1999, and it was a debate who found this. Is this a American scientist or the French scientist? They said the American scientists found this one, but the French scientists registered and researched the name of the selacan, and they make the name Latimeria manadoensis. This is the last, the only ancient living fossil found in the world beside the one in East Africa. Everybody know about the Komodo. We call it the World Heritage. This is the world's largest lizard in Komodo Island. The evolution of Komodo Islands is 3 million years of evolution. So these kind of examples of the mega marine biodiversity of Indonesia, everybody would like to visit. And this is the big opportunity for Indonesia to jumpstart, to rebound our tourism program with marine tourism. What should we do and what has been done? First, I think what usually is the easiest one in terms of activities, in terms of cost, but difficult in terms of bureaucratic regulation. So in the last 5 years, I see a lot of regulations has been enact and has been put in effect, in order to improve the number of foreign tourists to Indonesia, particularly those will be working in marine tourism. The visa-free policy program, which enable to have so many countries, so many foreign tourists coming to Indonesia without a visa. In terms of marine tourism, there is an easy permit for yacht entering Indonesia. You don't need a very long registration or permit. You just put everything online, and then yacht can enter for 30 days without visa, and you can extend another 30 days, so 60 days. And also the Ministry of Transportation, set up procedures on foreign yacht to enter Indonesian waters. It was in 2016. And Ministry of Finance put a temporary import of foreign yacht. This is to make it easier for them. You don't need to change the flag. You just have a temporary import license to enter Indonesian waters. And also there is a fee on port tariff that been released by the Ministry of Transportation in 2018. And the Ministry of Finance also set a custom service in 930 port of entries for yacht. So now you can enter Indonesian water and exit Indonesian waters coming from 93 port of entries. This is the Ministry of Finance regulation on 2018. So make it the bea cukai or custom services in a much easy way. They put it all in the gate of the Indonesian entries. So many yacht can come to Indonesia in much comfortable way. There's guideline for recreational fishing. I think this is very interesting. You know, the DG of Seascape, Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, set a regulation number 11, which provide you the guideline for recreational fishing. Before there isn't any permit or regulation regarding recreational fishing. Either you do it aquaculture or you do permit or license for capture fisheries. Now we have for game fishing. It is very good to push the game fishing tourism program in Indonesia. I think there was the latest one is there was a 75% tax cut for yacht value added tax, VAT tax. This is number 96, 2021. So by doing so now, you can change your flag of your yacht into Indonesian flag with a very low tax. This will improve to increase the number of yachts to be stationed in many Indonesian marinas, which also open the yacht shipyard activities, all the machinery of the making Indonesia one of the most interest area to put your foreign yachts in Indonesia. Revocation cabotage of cruise ships. So you now no cabotage for a cruise ship in 5 ports. So you can embark and disembark passengers in 5 ports, including Jakarta, Bali, Semarang, Makassar, and one more I forgot. And last but not least, easy flight clearance for charter flight. So suppose if you have a charter flight, you want to go to Raja Ampat from Darwin, for example. Okay, you just fly from Darwin to Ambon, have your flight clearance over there, including the custom and immigration, and you fly directly to Sorong to go to Raja Ampat. You don't need to change into domestic flight. Everything is very easy. And now this is the issues is again to push the marine tourism in Indonesia. One example, the decree 105 2015 on the yacht. This is the DG Seascape regulation. Pedoman pelaksanaan wisata pancing. So the regulation and procedures for recreational fishing or game fishing. Having all those regulations, we should set up activities. I think the most renowned activity is a sail events. Since sail Bunaken 29 until 2019, which is Sailnias. Maybe you remember, right? So 2009 is Bunaken, Sail Banda 2010. We have Sail Moyo 2018, Sail Morotai 2012, Sail Tomini 2015, Komodo also, and we have the Raja Ampat 2014, and 2019 is Sailnias. We have to push this again because by having this program, many yachts ready to join from all over the world because they have yachts, but they want to see the mega marine biodiversity. And the only place in the world is our Nusantara archipelago. So this is, I think in 2020, because the pandemic we stopped, and 2021 also we stopped, I'm looking forward. Let's start again in 2022. Start from now. Inform our colleagues from Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, Australia, Darwin, Perth, announce that we are going to have the sail event again in 2022. And sail event is, I'm talking about, is no problem concerning the pandemic COVID-19. This is the first one, sail Bunaken 2009. This is the famous one. And I'd like to inform you, because of this, we have the Likupang become the one of the top priority destination of Indonesia today. Because of the sail Wakatobi Belitung, we have the Belitung become the new one of the 10 new Bali, right? Bangka Belitung. Because of the sale Komodo 2013, Komodo became one of the 10 new Bali, and Labuan Bajo now becomes the one of the 5 top priority of our tourist destination area in Indonesia. Because of sale Morotai 2012, so the Morotai becomes one of the 10 new Bali. You know what I'm talking about this? Because of this, you know, many of the regions, the governor, the bupatis, the mayors would like to host this kind of event, because having this kind of event, they have an international exposure. At the same time, also tourists coming to this area, you don't need accessibility and you don't need amenities, because they can stay in your yacht and they can stay. You can go on and visit area with your own yacht. You don't need these airplanes or ship and so on. Seal Sabang, I think it was in 2017. Sabang is a free port and a free trade zone. It becomes a marine tourism priority area in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand Blue Triangle, IMTGT. You know why? Because it's very close, you know. Sabang from Phuket and Langkawi is just triangular. And you know, Phuket is the place of many of the yachts in this region. Langkawi also, many of the yachts also stay in that region. I'm talking foreign yacht, because your yacht are usually only being used 2 or 3 months, years by the owners. The owners stay residents in Europe, in America. So during the winter time, they fly to Phuket, they fly to Langkawi, and they are conducting sailing in the areas. So Sabang is the best place to do, because it's very close nearby in this 3 triangles. This is one of the examples. Remember, we have 10 new Bali, and this 10 new Bali, many of those are marine tourism area like Tanjung Lesung, Mandalika, you know, Likupang, and also we have also here in Belitung. And now out of this 10 new Bali, we have 5 we call it tourism priority area, which is Toba, and you know Mandalika, and we have also the Labuan Bajo, Likupang, and Borobudur. So Labuan Bajo and then Mandalika, I think, and Likupang, those are the marine tourism destination. The investment will be very big. I think this is high time also start to invite the investor to join again. We still believe that tourism will be still one of the largest revenue generating industries, provided now it has to have pandemic COVID pandemic issues in the consideration. Wonderful Sail to Indonesia event. This is a boat coming from all over the world. They start usually they start from Perth and also from Darwin. They're traveling over Indonesian waters, and they finish in Riau. Some of those they continues up to Sabang and to Singapore, Malaysia, and return. They have a different route. For example, they go into northern part of Indonesia. They go to Natuna, and then they sail across the Brunei and North Sulawesi, and then Maluku, and so on. So this one is continues until 2019, and we should start again in 2022. This is the parcel. This is the in Labuan Bajo. You may see in here, you don't need a very good or quite expensive resort, because they can stay in their boat. You don't need direct transportation or airplane or something like that, because they can stay. They can cruise or sail in their own boat. So we just provide the destination. Next to this is the surfing. Indonesia, the heaven of world surfers. You know, in 2018 we have 10 program international. You see the area: Krui, Mentawai, West Sumbawa, Nias, Mandalika, Simelu, Rote. Those are all remote area, but people, surfers, they go there. They went there because I know this is the best location in the world in terms of the waves and so on. There is no other competitor, so they like to come. They stay more than 2 weeks in one location, and you know they went to Lampung, for example, just to have the surfing activities. And this is internationally known, and it was a broadcast live. Time is up.
Yes,
Okay,
1 minute left.
1 minute left. Okay, diving also, free diving competition in Sabang, and cruise. We have to restart again the cruise because cruise connect international passengers, including 2019. We have almost 500,000 now is done because of this COVID. So I would like to share with you with the last but not least the dive, eat, and sleep activities using our P.hd and the game fishing also. So what are we going to do next? So this is my conclusion. Number one, please organize sail events again in 2022 with various destination points. Number two, please rejuvenate Darwin Ammon York race in 2022. Number three, please organize game fishing tournaments because this is very easy and very able to attract crowds. Number four, please restart Nongsa Point Regatta annual event, Batam, Singapore. Number five, explore domestic cruise program. I think we have my colleague here. Maybe they can speak during the Q&A. Number seven, organize free diving competition annual event in Sabang because this is already the place in which you can dive more than 150 meters. Last but not least, please rejuvenate international surfing competition event in Indonesia. Our ocean, our waves is very well known all over the world. So we should organize this again. This is open and this is a very good to jumpstart the marine tourism in a post COVID-19 pandemic era. In conclusion, I'd like to share there are two books already available, Marine Tourism in Indonesia and Wisata Bahari di Indonesia. It was published by the Korean Ministry for Maritime Affairs and the Ministry of Tourism in 2019. I'm going to send some copies of this to Pak Arfin. I would like to share it with our speakers. And if there's no extras, please contact us if you're interested to see how is the marine tourism in Indonesia progress, and we should proceed with in the post-COVID-19 era. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Professor Dr. Dwisuryo Indroyono Soesilo, M.Sc., for giving us such informative and interesting presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are come to the discussion. There is some questions from the audience, and the first questions refer to Mrs. Azwin asking. The first come from Fahri from Bali Tourism Polytechnic. He's asking about, does this pandemic has affected the gastronomic experience? And the second one, how to maintain and develop the gastronomic tourism in the middle of this situation. Time is yours. Are you ready to answer, Ms. Askin? Time is yours. Yes. There is no voice.
Sorry, I cannot unmute myself earlier. So thank you for doing that for me.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting question. How the pandemic affects gastronomic. I think the pandemic really killed gastronomic at this point, because in order to really engage in gastronomic experience, we really need to be there. Of course, now we can do with what we can. Like for myself, I go on to all the social media and learn how to make all sorts of dishes, which I've never made in my life before. But it always ends up with something lacking, because, you always end up eating in your kitchen instead of, next to the Lake Toba, or somewhere in the jungle of the Sulawesi or Kalimantan, So it's different. I think the best thing to do during this pandemic in order to sustain the whole idea of gastronomic tourism is that we should take this opportunity to enhance or to even educate ourselves better in preparing our food more innovations, and of course hygiene. So in terms of cleanliness, this is probably the best time for us to look into the possibility of bettering ourselves in the way we prepare food, so that by the time tourism is ready again, hopefully very soon, I can't wait to visit Makassar. We are much more prepared in terms of sharing our food knowledge with the tourists. I hope that actually answers your question. Any other question?
Okay. Well, thank you for your answer. And the second one come from Miss from Medan Tourism Polytechnic, asking about, due to Indonesia has a Muslim religion as a majority, and regarding the gastronomy tourism and tourism halal, pariwisata halal, how do you perceive? It makes sense? It is clear?
I think, I think I can relate to that question. I think one of the biggest opportunities when I visited Balige in 2019 was that I think the local community was trying to actually understand the whole concept of halal at that time, in order for them to actually meet the demand of the market. I think in any forms of tourism, I think it is very important that we identify the potential of the destinations or the area of concern in terms of what is sellable. And of course, being somewhat close to Malaysian region, we are practically neighbors. I think it took only 1 hour for me to fly from KLIA to Silangit, which was so convenient. It takes even longer to go back to my hometown. So I think I'd rather fly to Silangit the next time. It takes like 45 minutes. And for me to, but of course, one of the major concerns when you talk about different markets is halal. Halal food is very much something that Malaysians put attention, or it is a very significant context for the Malaysian tourists. So I think Balige is doing a pretty good job at that time when we were there to try and understand this market. And I hope by the time Balige is open again, it's probably will be more convenient for us to actually find halal food in the area. Does that answer your question?
Thank you for your answer. I think already makes sense to the participant who asked the questions. And the third questions come from Nurlisani from Polytechnic Makassar. She asking about how did you see this related the mass tourism that would inevitably run our existing amazing prestige undersea ecosystem?
I think this question is for
Mr. Professor.
Okay.
The question for Professor Dr. Dwisuryo. Time is your.
What is the question again? Sorry, what is the question again?
Yes. The question is regarding having our marine tourism to rebound of this post-pandemic situation, as you are referred previously. How do you see this related to mass tourism that would inevitability rain or existing and amazing pristine undersea ecosystem? Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think
I mean the
yeah.
previously.
Some of the tourists coming from coming from some countries, they like to do mass tourism and cheap, inexpensive tourism. Okay, I think from our side, we should be able to value what is the value of our destinations. However, the marine tourism that I'll share with you, for example, the diving, game fishing, yachting, and sailing and cruising, those are the tourist activities which provide a big revenue. Sometimes we didn't realize that. I think my friend from Formasi, the Forum Mancing Indonesia, I think present also here. They mentioned, for example, just one tourist coming from London would like to do some game fishing in Raja Ampat for 1 week, excluding the tickets. They are willing to pay $40,000. Those people who like to do with we call it eat, sleep, and diving using our PNC, for example. They are willing to pay $24 million to $30 million for 1 week. Those are the high-end tourists I'm talking about. Cruise ship also. Cruise ship is not an inexpensive activity. So I really would like now, for the moment, we not only put the number of tourists is our target, but also please also see how big is the revenues coming in. Because most of these natural beauties of marine tourism, you need some conservation and you need some preservation. I think for me, that's the point. Thank you.
Thank you for your nice answering. And the last questions from Noval. He is from Wakatobi. He asking about, he would like to ask about Sail Wonderful 2022.
Okay, I like to share because many of the
about that.
Yeah, this is I'm talking about we can jumpstart the program, but since in this event there are many of our participants who are the organizer of the sale events or the one who organized the game fishing events and also cruise event. Maybe you can allow them to give to speak in 1 minute or something like that, please.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Well, is any other questions? I think
there is Mr.
No more questions.
This is Mr. Jestrom raise his hand. Ibu udah lihat itu ya? Itu ada angkat tangan itu, Bu. Ada tunjuk tangan itu di Zoom-nya. Silakan, Bu. Itu ada Mr. Jasem. Nah.
Bisa dilihat dulu. There is an erase. Okay. Yes, Miss. No, raise hand.
Itu ada Mr. Jasem itu.
Dan Isan.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can I just confirm that you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right. Actually, thank you very much for this opportunity, Professor, and thank you for putting the slides together. Of course, it's quite interesting. From our side, really, with my friend Bimo from Indonesia, and then myself, I'm from Dubai. I'm actually now currently working on a project supporting the Saudi government on domestic cruising launch and the whole cruise perspective. Our take is, in fact, that Indonesia has so much to offer, of course. But the most important thing is Indonesians themselves, they participate in cruise tourism. Indonesians, they travel on cruise ships. We had, during the COVID, we learned really a lot from the COVID. And one thing I think from the COVID is domestic, how domestic economy become the target. Of course, with respect to all the international and overseas travelers, and the second layer, the regional travelers, but going domestic is the most important thing. We prepared actually a study of almost 70 pages, pointing out how powerful is in fact the product of Cruise Indonesia, focusing in Indonesians, served in Indonesian ports, especially Jakarta, and served by Indonesian crew. And just to conclude, I was on board one of the ships here in Jeddah, M.Si. Bellissima. We had merely 300 Indonesian crew. So you can imagine if the government really took over on board itself such a strategy of having a cruise Indonesian with Indonesian serving Indonesians. And of course, it's themed somehow to discover their own islands. As you rightly said, there is over 17,000 islands, and mostly for their own people are undiscovered. So this is a contribution I wanted to put on this summit. We have a blog that we have where we announced our study. And again, it was the fruit of the COVID-19.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Bu, itu sudah ada tawaran satu, Bu, domestic cruise ship activities. Diambil aja, Bu. Kita follow up aja. We'll do some follow up for that, okay? Gimana, Bu?
Ya, Prof. Ya,
sayang nih kesempatan ini. Jadi, thank you. We should jumpstart the program by introduce what we call it domestic cruise ship program. I think this is a good idea. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for information about tourism cruise ship program, Mr. Jason. Yeah. Well, I think because the time is over, I would like to say, hopefully the information that we have shared today will be useful for all of us, and also thank you for all audience for your participation. I would like to thank you for all speakers and all the informative and interesting presentation, and the all participants, very active participants, finally give the applause for the speakers and for you all. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Prof, terima kasih Ms. Azwin. Thank you Azwin. We're waiting you in Makassar and Prof. Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Give applause for Mrs. Margaretha Wadid Rante. And I hope you stay in here. I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Arfin, MPD, for photo session today in the national seminar, and Mr. Nur Salam and Mr. Muhammad Arfin Muhammad Salim, please on the stage. Well, please give applause for International Seminar 2021 hosted by Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar. Okay, thank you very much and give applause. And please be seated for Mrs. and Mr. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our program. I would like to thank you all speakers for the informative and interesting presentation and all the participants for your very active participation in this seminar. Let us give all speaker and all of you big a round of applause in this international seminar hosted by Tourism Polytechnic of Makassar. Thank you very much. I am Indra Gunawan. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And see you next time. Polytechnic Pariwisata Makassar absolutely qualified. The next performance by Ulfa Azila.
Close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting for me. That I call my home. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, that it feels like home. They can say the sun's crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call us crazy. We can live in the world that we desire. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, your brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me away. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. For a million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build, every room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one day to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call us crazy. to the world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, your brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me away. Think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. However big, however small, let me be part of it all. Share your dreams with me. You may be right, you may be wrong. Say that you bring me along to the world you see, to the world I close my eyes to see. I close my eyes to see. Every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me away. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. For the world we're gonna make.
Terima kasih kepada tamu undangan kita dari Politeknik Pariwisata Lombok. Disilahkan untuk kembali ke tempat. Selanjutnya foto bersama dengan mahasiswa program studi dari Manajemen Konvensi dan Perhelatan. Disilahkan. Disilahkan untuk mahasiswa dari Manajemen Konvensi dan Perhelatan. Bentar Pak, biar dulu mahasiswa dulu.
Sultan.
Cepat deh, habis nanti rollnya.